Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch with myself, Kate Tracey, alongside Dave Young and Andrew Mount to look ahead to 1 million races this Saturday. We actually have 11 on the ITV scheduled races on Saturday from Cheltenham, where, of course, the jump season is really getting rolling now and into top gear. Doncaster, we also have the Futurity as the feature race, as well as that we also have a couple of bonuses from Newbury as well. Now, we look back at the results from Ascot Saturday last weekend. Now, funnily enough, neither of the lads managed to get the 200 or 100 to 1 winners, but we did still have some winners all the same. At 12.55 at Ascot, Andrew had Trawlerman, who won at 5 to 6. Matty had Sweet William without the winner, who of course finished second behind Trawlerman. And in the 4.05 at Ascot, Andrew had Calandigan as a 15 to 8 winner. So hopefully we can find plenty more this weekend with a plethora of action. But we do have something extra for you to look forward to. We will be filming our National Hunt preview special show next week. The three of us in person again, on location in London. So we need your questions. Any sort of questions whatsoever you want to ask the lads or I. Anything about horses you're looking forward to this season, any anti-post plays, biggest winner of all time, anything at all, make sure to ask the lads. Just leave it in the comment section below.
Ideally about horse racing and betting, rather than you got any good recipes?
When I say anything at all, horse racing based preferably, please. We will stick to that for now, because I mean the three of us don't really know much else apart from horse racing anyway to be able to offer any answers or advice anyway.
And in fairness, we don't know a lot about that either, do we?
No, to be fair, yeah, exactly. We'll see how we go this weekend. But we better get cracking because 11 scheduled races to get through. And we begin at Cheltenham with the 110 novices limited handicap chase, 4-year-olds and over to mile 4. Now we have 6 to 1 the field. So Dave, you've got your beloved Cheltenham back, so it only feels right you have first go.
Thank you very much. And they say less is more, don't they? And they've given us 11 races on the relatively schedule. It's tricky, isn't it? Because especially from a time perspective, getting the deck to give everything the attention. And then, as you said, it's 6 to 1 the field this first race. Theme of this weekend is deep competitive races. But we'll know at the start of the jump season at Cheltenham, October is quite specific, I think, in the fact that October results tend to be different throughout the rest of the season. What I mean by that is there'll be lots of October Cheltenham form that will carry through to November, but it may not go much further than that. And there are lots of trainers that will target this particular meeting to slap it up because it's still a Cheltenham Festival. It's still a Cheltenham winner, but not quite the Cheltenham Festival winner. So that's going to be the theme for all my sort of nuggets that come out of here. Sean Bowen's won this race twice in the last 3 years. Teamed up with Martin Keeley back in 2022, I think it was. He's got a mount in here called Springs a Girl. He's been nibbled a little bit in the betting. Top price 16 to 1, but general 14 to 1 shot in here. So that's sort of an easy enough case to make, isn't it? From the small renewal, Sean Bowen's riding out of his skin. The trainers obviously won this race before. I do think the ground is probably going to come right for this one as well. She's been a non-runner on really bad ground and really quick ground. It's good to soft at the moment. I don't think it's going to drop up too much more than that. So I think it's going to be good to soft ground. She does lack a little bit of class for a race like this typically, but I do think there is compensation in her pricing. I think she potentially is an obvious shortener. It was Ian Patrick Donoghue last year that teamed up with Sean Bowen to get the winner. He sends a mare over True Testimony. She's a second season novice. She's another one that's hard to make a bit of a form case for, though. She's a stable switcher. One run this season wasn't really very good. It's the type of race, though, I feel like you could argue the case for any horse to win this, but I think you'd probably be doing that in hindsight, because looking at it now, it's hard to make strong cases for anything in particular, but afterwards you can make a case for loads of horses. Inoxalan looks like he's supposed to be a better horse now. Darcy's Friend made a howler 2 out last time. I don't know how good the form of that is, but you would say could step forward and win here. Then there's horses like Newton Tornado, Double Powerful, Crest of Fortune. So yeah, very competitive races the market would suggest, but using that October form and seeing what happens this time of year, I think Springs a Girl at 16 to 1 will be the selection in the first.
For Sean Bowen and Martin Keith there. I believe Sean Bowen's been having a good time with things of late. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, 10 of his last 11 rides. I know in his sole ride so far at Fulham, he actually got brought down, but going into today, 10 from his last 12 rides were winners. So, and for one for Martin Keithley at Worcester as well. The other day, it was only yesterday, wasn't it? Wednesday. Don't know. All my days are blending into one at present. But Springs a Girl, 16 to 1 play. So to side with a Sean Bowen ridden runner at that price is no mean feat. Andrew.
Yeah, the biggest surprise about Sean Bowen's good spell is I didn't nap the only one that got beaten in that sequence. But, This race has only been part of the Cheltenham October programme for 4 years, but in that time, early pace has been very important. 3 of the winners have made all, which is a little worry for the current second favourite, Double Powerful. It's a horse I'm a fan of. He was very good in Handicap Hurdle Company last year, tended to do his best between the March and November period when the ground wasn't too soft. And he did win here on the old course on his only previous Cheltenham visit in a field of 16 at the November meeting. Now he's the kind of horse that I think could end up running well in the spring festivals and big field handicap chases. He might even develop into an Ultima or sort of Kim Muir candidate, but given his running style, I'll just be a little bit concerned about him here. So I want to watch on his, on his chase debut. Stablemate Scorsese was quite interesting, given that he's a front runner, so he could go well. But there's another one I was going to side with, which is Newton Tornado for Rebecca Curtis. Now, this one was last seen in action in a maiden hurdle at Fosslas in the spring, making all that day, and did have one run in point-to-point company and won that from the front. So, back over fences, Newton Tornado is just a sort of tentative pick in a very tricky race. Inox LN could go from the front as well, but has only been sort of, winning at sort of Perth and Ayr and Hexham. And when sort of goes much further south, a couple of comprehensive defeats at shortage prices at Haydock. Be interesting to see how he gets on coming down, taking on the Southerners. But yeah, an open race, and I'll just go Newton Tornado.
Newton Tornado at 8-1 for Rebecca Curtis, and then Jones onto the 130 at Doncaster now. So we switch back to the flat. This is a 0-105 handicap, 3-year-olds and over 5 furlongs. Now the ground is currently listed as heavy at Doncaster at the time of recording Thursday afternoon. Rosario 4-1 market leader in this one. So Andrew, you've got enough horses to go at.
Yeah, interesting race this, 5 furlong class 2 handicap. Now, a lot of runners who line up here had run in the 5 furlong class 2 handicap at Catterick last Saturday, the William Hill handicap. Now, in the last 10 years, 33 prepped in that race, and they all got beat. Do be wary of the claims of Lexington Blitz, who won that race. A very different track, of course. It was sort of pace favouring left-handed track at Catterick, rocking up here on a straight course. That was good ground as well, rocking up here on what could be heavy ground. You look at the draw bias as well for that Catterick race last week. The first 3 were drawn 1, 2 and 3. So I would think Lexington Blitz is liable to drift from the current odds here. Vintage Clarets also ran in that Catterick. Is it the Catterick Dash, or it used to be called the Catterick Dash? Finished 5th as a 7-2 favourite. So yeah, just be wary of that form. I don't like Sophia's Starlight either. A horse I love, but she's a horse to back against her own sex. She does particularly well in fillies handicaps. She bounced back to form from a favourable draw at Pontefract last time. So again, she might have been flattered by that. And Smart Vision is another one I wanted to be against. There's been a massive draw bias at Leicester recently. I walked the course a couple of meetings ago, and there's I was going to say a wet patch, but that sounds a bit suspect. But there was, if you imagine the straight course of Leicester as a giant mattress, there was a wet patch right in the middle, and you had to be drawn low and race towards the far side, or at least work your way across to the far side. And I think Smart Vision was drawn in stall 1 when racing prominently that day and scoring. So rule that one out as well. So yeah, it's a case more of what I don't like than what I do like here. Trilby generally runs his race when the going's heavy, which I think it's going to be as well. Rosario's going to run a race. She's got the first-time visor on, but there's, she's short enough. So I'll go to Trilby each way, but yeah, it's more a case of being against certain horses than with those.
9-1 about Trilby. I just love the fact that you already conjured up the image for us about a wet patch, and then double down on it by saying, if you can imagine a mattress. Double down on the imagination. Thank you. We definitely won't be forgetting that way to tee this up, and about certain courses as well. Trilby for Andrew. Dave, you got any sort of similar imagery for us?
Absolutely not in this instance. But sort of on the thing that I was looking at with the Cheltenham stuff, looking back at last year's meeting, Jer Batt almost took this race 12 months ago. While it's been quite a while since the horse has had his head in front, the last time the horse did win was beating American Fair, getting just £1 from that horse. So look, still looks reasonable form now. He's been running well, to be fair, since that last victory. Not in every single start, but lots of races there or thereabouts. Maybe a little bit unlucky in a couple of races. He's managed to drop £4 from the mark that he ran in this race 12 months ago from, despite the fact that, like I say, I think there's been some reasonable form in there. Oisin Murphy's back up top to take the ride. The cheap pieces have been applied. Ran at Haydock, was it last week, or probably will be 8 days ago by the time this race comes around, so last Friday, but had sort of 6 weeks off between then, or at least a few weeks off between then. So I feel like they're setting the horse up to have a little re-battle at this race. They mean business, I think, with Oisin booked up, the cheap pieces applied, and considering this horse does handle all types of ground, I'm backing him to get the job done here. It is 6-1 second favourite, but there are 4 places up for grabs with just 13 runners. For a horse like Jer Batt in a contest like this, I think he looks like a knock in each way bet.
Yeah, he's a proper just each way horse, isn't he? First time cheap pieces going on as well, which is fascinating for him at 6-1. Back to Cheltenham for the 145 novices hurdle, 4-year-olds and over 3 miles. So going far enough then for these novices in here. So again, we don't know an awful lot about these lot just yet, especially over this trip day, but we've got 130 the field. Gordon Elliott, Jack Kennedy runner heading the way, and of course Gordon Elliott had been having a very good time stateside of late.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant to see that sort of stuff, isn't it? Especially considering they're so big for the jumps over in America. I think he typically starts his seasons quite well, doesn't he, Gordon? He knows that Willie's still waiting to do some bits, so he thinks I might as well get my yard flying so we can pick up the pieces before Willie starts sending out the big guns. But he does well at this meeting as well, and I love the fact that Jack Kennedy had an interrupted season last season. I don't think he was fully sound to come back for Cheltenham the year before. I think it's like he's hopefully going to have a clear path this year, and it's nice to see him getting out and about, getting lots of rides. So I think there's a lot of intent early in the season from Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy. So Paula Fields carries the £5 penalty for winning. I think it's a Class 3 to Class 5. You get a £5 penalty. So even though Manila Supreme for last year's winning trainer John McConnell. Was it last year's winner? 3 of the last 5 he's had anyway. But yeah, Manila Supreme's won a race but won't get a penalty because it was a maiden. I think Paula Fields is a good horse, with behind Florida Dream in that Aintree Grade 2 bumper. Was it 2023, I think now? And obviously now as a 7-year-old turning 8, hasn't had that much experience over hurdles, but it's clearly had some sort of issue. So was probably entitled to be a bit further forward than some of the rivals that it raced against last time out. Was a reasonable performance. 132 is, I guess, a reasonable standard for this type of contest. So deserves to be at the front of the market. Manila Supreme, as I say, for John McConnell, I think the form of that last run wouldn't scream out that would be able to get better if Paula Fields on official ratings, even getting the £5. But the step up in trip's going to see some more improvement. And I think this horse has got a bit more scope than the current favourite has. So of the couple at the front of the market, I'd probably prefer Manila Supreme to Paula Field, but I think they've both got good chances. They both look probably skinny enough, I think, in the opinion of this race, because it looks a bit deep in terms of there's lots of horses in here that are unexposed, or horses that are making their debuts from under rules in terms of hurdling. But you've got lots of ex-pointers in here as well, and it's one for Kim Bailey and Matt Nichols that's sort of drawn my eye that I'm going to take a bit of a flyer on, which is Island Bridge at 28-1. Looks like this horse has got stamina in abundance. Won the point-to-point in October last year. A couple of bumper runs which were early this calendar year, so late last season. They looked probably educational, but I think that's a reasonable standard of bumper form for a horse that clearly wants an obstacle, clearly wants 3 miles. So I think in the context of this contest, given that Paula Field and Manila Supreme, I don't think set an insurmountable bar for any horse in there, why can't Island Bridge go and win this on debut, and why can't he do it at 28-1?
Yeah, nice price as well for Island Bridge. And they also had a winner at Worcester. I think it was actually in John Paris's colours as well there at Worcester yesterday. Andrew, novices hurdle, who are you siding with?
One of the front 3 in the betting, very boringly. This race tends to go to a horse who was favourite for a hurdle last time out. 8 winners from 22 in the past 10 years, and a profit of £4.57 to £1 level stake at SP. And of course, John McConnell does well at Cheltenham outside of the festival. 11 winners from 49, a profit of £26.38. He's won this race, was it 3 times in the past 5 years? So it's all pointing to a good run from the one Dave started with, Manila Supreme, who was 2-1 favourite last time out when winning. Conman John fits the stats, as does Paul Lefi. So yeah, it's I think those come from the point field might find this a little bit tricky, on the sort of, particularly if they're making their hurdles debut. So I'll go Manila Supreme, basically on the trainer angle there.
Yeah, okay, then Manila Supreme. It is currently at 6-1 there. John McConnell, I should say, does do very well at Cheltenham outside of the festival. Back to Doncaster now, and this is for the big one. This is for the Group 1 Futurity Trophy Stakes for 2-year-olds over a mile. We currently have the Derby anti-post favourite Benvenuto Cellini heading the way in this one at 5-4. Now, he is actually deposed Hawk Mountain as a favourite. Christoph Sumion keeping the ride, and of course we had the Aidan O'Brien jockey bookings quite late in the day, as we tend to expect, but it is Benvenuto Cellini, Andrew, who heads the way here.
Yeah, funny race. There's 6 runners, 4 of them are Frankels, and although the evidence is, sort of sample size wise fairly small, Frankels in the mud in Group 1 company in Britain and Ireland don't do particularly well. Just one winner from 15 starts, and that was Cracksman. A lot of these were short price favourites. In Group 2 companies, it's 0 from 6. And Frankels with the sort of US dam are only 6 from 72 on soft or heavy, which counts against Aidan O'Brien's Action, who's the 8-1 third favourite. The prices I'm looking at. We've only got 2 non-Frankels. One of those is Roquefort Bridge, who's by Memas, who's 100-1, and the other one is Hawk Mountain, Wooden Bassett's, who's sort of, again, from a fairly limited number. It's sort of, the signs are more encouraging that the forecast heavy going at Doncaster will not suit necessarily, but he'll cope better with it perhaps than Benvenuto Cellini. So easy for me to say. So yeah, I'm just going to go with Hawk Mountain, but I'm fascinated to see how the Frankels get on in the mud.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good for me at all, because I'm with Benvenuto Cellini here. And the only reason I'm able to say that name, well, what I perceive to be the correct pronunciation, is the fact that I did a bit of filming earlier on this week for Botano, and it was all about kind of the summary of the flat season, my favourite horse of the year, favourite race of the year, underdog story, but also we threw it forwards to looking forwards to the Guineas and also to the Derby next year. And the question was, who wins the Derby, which obviously is a thankless task and nearly an impossible task at this stage. But it meant that I started trawling through the Derby betting, and I was trying to find something, unearth something, which of course is going to be a whole load of horses over the winter that will be unearthed. But I just kept coming back to Benvenuto Cellini and kept watching that last time out performance. He was so impressive. I know it was more drying ground than his penultimate outing, which probably did suit him that bit better, but he's proven he can cope with softer conditions, unlike a lot of these in here. And the further he went, the better he got. The stamina is there for all to see. I am concerned, therefore, about the softer going Frankel Group 1 stats.
He can finish second by a nose to the stablemate here and still win the Derby.
Yeah, that is very true. Exactly. When you look back at this race last year and exactly how horses who finished behind fared later on, then it will, be interesting to see. But I'm going to stick with Benvenuto Cellini. Dave, who are you siding with?
Well, I think Aidan O'Brien's obviously got a very strong hand, and he's got the first 3 in the betting. It's really interesting to see how this market's going to settle down a bit now. I wouldn't have known the sort of ground stats that Andrew's put up there with the Frankel horses, but I did look at the trio of them and think that Hawk Mountain has the best form in the book on Racing Post ratings, which again, I know is just someone's opinion, isn't it? But I would probably agree with that in terms of form that's in the book, and has got the best form on this type of ground as well. I say this type of ground, it's going to be worse than anything that these horses have encountered, but he's the weakest of the trio in the betting. So then it starts messing with your head that Ballydoyle know which is the pecking order and which one of them is going to win. Obviously, Christoph Sumion's riding the Derby favourite. So it's a tricky one from a betting perspective, I think. I can see why Action's shorting him, because I thought his run last time out, I think it was behind Bo Echo, it was a better performance on RPRs than the favourites. There was just a bit too much of a gap between him and the prices. So I think he deserves to shorten up, but I don't necessarily think the money's coming in because they think that's the horse that's going to win it. I think he was just priced up wrong in the first instance. So it probably could be boring that the favourite goes and wins this one. But obviously, there's lots of racing on Saturday. There's lots of racing throughout the season. This is just going to be a fascinating race to watch. Like you say, with an eye to the Derby for next year, there's already been some money for Hawk Mountain, who was, I think, general 25s. He's down to 16s in places, probably because people think he could go well in here. I think if I was to have a token bet in the race, it would be on Hawk Mountain. Similar reasons as what Andrew said there, the fact that the conditions are going to set up for this horse to probably show his best. But it could be the case that Hawk Mountain goes and wins this and something behind goes and wins the Derby. So I can't wait to watch it, but I don't think I could tell you who's going to win it.
Yeah, really tricky Futurity, as it always is, but especially with these ground conditions chucked into the mix. But I'll allow you to stick with Andrew for Hawk Mountain here, and I'll take you on with Benvenuto Cellini. Right, on to the 220 now at Cheltenham. Handicap chase, 4-year odds and over 3 mile 1. Very valuable contest that we've got to go at. Rock My Way for Joe Tizard and Brendan Powell heads the way at 6 to 1 in this one. But again, Dave, we've got a whole host of potential angles in here.
Yeah, it's a brilliant race for the fact that it's a brilliantly competitive race, a nice big size field. We've got all types of horses in it. We've got a Welsh Grand National winner in Nassalam, who's a 40 to 1 bloke, obviously in very different conditions to what he won that race in. But it's hard when we're trying to get this race preview to give it the sort of depth that it needs to be looked into. Henry de Bromhead, again, when I'm talking about like recent October form history, Henry de Bromhead and Darragh Keefe have teamed up to win this the last 2 years. They've got the short go in here. He was a pretty good fifth in the Ultimate, to be fair, a race that we know notoriously that the Irish struggle to sort of land a blow in. Mertown was a very good winner of that race. The Changer Man ran really well in second, and I know the distance of the short go would look like he's miles behind, but I thought it was an all right effort. He was also second in this race 12 months ago behind his stablemate. And he's off a £6 higher mark now, but it's the same mark as he was in the Ultra. So I think he's obviously going to be bang there. He's about 8 to 1 poke, I think, with 5 places up for grabs. He'd look you solid if you just wanted to go for an easy selection to make an easy case for the short go. I don't want to do that, though. I want to try and find something a bit more obscure, I guess, not for the sake of just trying to do it, but there's so many good horses in here. Transmission was a horse I made a case for the National Hunt Chase. I still think his early season form from last year in and around Haiti Coulez is good form. Just don't think he stayed, and maybe he's just not quite as good in the spring. He did get beat by Highland here last season and actually got slammed by Highland, and then he went and won in the November meeting. So maybe they might be eyeing up another handicap in the November meeting for Transmission. So as much as I like him, tempered enthusiasm. And I do like Highland, mentioned him just there with his fact he slammed Transmission. I think he's on all right terms. He was reasonably fancied for a Grand National, considering Nicky Henderson doesn't really do so well with those types of horses. But I just can't help but feel like he must be handicapped to not be winning a race like this. For all that I said that he could be fancied for a Grand National, I don't see him winning this. 7 to 1 about him doesn't look particularly attractive. Rock My Way was second in that National Hunt Chase at the Cheltenham Festival, so another bit of form, and that's only £1 higher. He's clearly got scope in his mark, but I don't know if this is going to be enough of a test for him. So I'm just sort of picking holes in loads of horses. The one that I would be tempted to have a go with would be Holy Smoke, who is a bleeder, and he is probably better at Sandown than he might be at Cheltenham. But I think that could just be a bit of a red herring, given the fact that the horse has had issues in some of his races. I think he's a reasonably well handicapped horse. It's just a case of, I don't know when you're going to be able to catch him right, especially with the fact that he does have that sort of bleeding issue. The other one that I could make a bit of a case for was Dunboyne as well. He was an Irish Grand National 4th. He did best of those ridden from the rear. That was a race where Haiti Coulez won that, and you needed to be up the front. The first 3 were right at the front. Dunboyne came right from the back. He's got a chance that he can step forward because it's an unchanged British mark that he's got compared to the Irish. We know they normally get a bit of a tax on there. The only thing is, like Andrew said in the earlier chase, like being on towards the front of the pace typically does help. I don't know if Andrew's got any specific stats on that for this race, but I think Dunboyne would need to be ridden a little more prominently because he's been here before and hasn't quite worked out for him. So I don't know, even talking about it there, I feel like Holy Smoke was going to be the selection. Now I feel like I should go back to the obvious, the short go, but I'm tempted to take a chance on Dunboyne. So we'll go for Dunboyne as a token selection in each way price. I think if he's ridden close enough to the pace, he might better pick up the pieces and fill the frame.
There you go, a few different ways to play this, but the official selection for this part and for this show is going to be 16 to 1 about Dunboyne, the now 10-year-old for Dave. But Andrew, it is super competitive.
Yeah, there are some interesting stats that Dave was suggesting, particularly in regards to running style. 7 of the past 10 winners led or raced prominently, and you'd make a profit backing those who were up with the pace. And last time out running style isn't always a good predictor of early pace. Running styles can change. It might depend on the number of runners last time or the class last time. But in this race, in the last 10 years, 26 horses lined up who made the running in their prep race. 5 of those won for a profit of £24. So do look out to see what the horse did last time. Irish trainers have won 3 of the last 10 renewals. From just 16 runners, you made a profit of £14.50. The Brits are 7 from 112 minus 38.50. And the other interesting angle is age. All of the last 10 winners were aged 7, 8 or 9. 101 qualifiers over the 10-year period, but you'd have made a profit at SP of just £3 back in the blind. So, so you're looking for a horse with early pace, aged between 7 and 9, and perhaps with preference to being trained in Ireland. Now, Rock My Way didn't make the running last time, but can do. He's had the wind operation since we last saw him. That's a positive angle for the Tizard Yard with handicapped chasers and hurdlers. 20 winners from 117 since the spring of 2016 for a profit of just over 60 quid. Highland, of course, is interesting. He tends to come good in the early part of the season. Now, he won the 3-mile Class 2 novice chase on this card last year on his reappearance, beating Transmission by 15 lengths into second with a 92 shot. He was always prominent. He followed that up with a win in listed company at the Cheltenham November meeting. The season before, he won his first 2 starts, one at Warwick, one here at Cheltenham at this meeting. So again, Highland, arrives here looking for a hat trick of Cheltenham October victories. He's likely to be prominent. He's an 8-year-old trained by Nicky Henderson, so plenty of ticks and boxes for him. The short go, I do worry about the running style. I know he was second last year, but he's going to be ridden patiently again. Transmission is another sort of interesting one if he's up with the pace. Ballycamus I thought would probably be up there, but of course he's I think 3 of his last 3 wins have come in fields of 6 or fewer runners, as indeed of something like 5 of his 7 wins. So I do worry about him holding his position in a big field. It's a cracking competitive race. Facile Mode is likely to be up there for Thomas Mullins, a 7-year-old. He might go well at a price, but I'm just going to go for Highland to make it 3 Cheltenham October wins from the last 3 seasons.
To bring up the hat trick for the October Cheltenham meeting, but fascinating throughout this contest. I'm actually taking a bit of a chance with Manila Blue Way in here at a decent price. It's actually just been clipped in from 20s to 16s before my very eyes, bidding for a hat trick. Of course, had his first season chasing as a novice last year, going into the official open ranks this time round. But for all that, he's running off 10 stone too. It's actually £2 wrong at the weights in here, but in the Williamses, I trust for running Manila Blue Way, and hopefully he still has plenty more scope and plenty more to offer. He's another one who should be bang up there with the pace. Right, we move on to the 240 at Doncaster, the listed prospect stakes for the 2-year-olds for this time over. There's 6 furlongs, 5 to 2 the field. Lam Yai it is who heads the way in this one. Carl Burke and Shane Gray. So Andrew, who wins?
Yeah, tricky race. The interesting angle is to do with foaling dates. Now, the later the runners were foaled, generally the better. Now, horses foaled in April of 5 from 18 for a profit of £28.57. You'd have lost money back in the January, February, and March foals. Now, in this race, 7 runners. Spanish Walks and Trust Amy were foaled in April. All the others are March foals. So I just thought I'd concentrate on those 2, in particular Spanish Walks for Rick Beckett. Hector Crouch has got a good record when he rides last time out winners. This one won a Pontefract Maiden last time out, all being an 80 to 1 shot into second place. Form possibly not worth a great deal, but could improve for that. And Trust Amy, despite being the 33 to 1 outsider of the field, wasn't unbacked when scoring in novice company at Chester last time. It was a 12 to 1 shot SP, but had been sort of 25 to 1 plus a day or 2 before that. So I was going to sort of probably Dutch the pair and have a lean up with Trust Amy at a big price here.
Okay, and Trust Amy then at a big price as well. So nice way to play this. What is a pretty small field race, I think it's fair to say, but it's a 33 to 1 outsider of the field to back up her success from last time out for Andrew. Dave.
Yeah, see, I quite liked the chance of the favourite Lam Yai. I thought it was relatively solid in here. Now, Andrew said about the folding dates, but the 25th of March is basically April, isn't it? So that might potentially the days of the month might have some sort of bearing in it. Her best.
It's also my dad's birthday, the 25th of March, so I'll give him his card on the 1st of April and tell him Dave said it was all right.
Oh, lovely. And it's the 23rd of March is my dad's. What a lovely conversation for us to bring up in there. Lam Yai's best form.
That's no idea of the questions for the jumps preview next week.
Yes,
when's your dad's birthday?
We've just answered and we ruined it the next Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. We ruined the dying question.
Right, back to the prospect stakes. Lam Yai's best form, as far as I'm concerned, has come on slow ground, like soft ground. The run last time, she was supported, and I had a bit of an affinity with more Lamb for the same owners. I looked at Lam Yai and was thinking, well, why is there a little bit of money for this horse? Was expecting potentially that I don't know, money might talk and the horse has potentially progressed, because would have needed to feature. But she ran so well last time, and I think she was a little bit unlucky as well. She did quite a lot of the donkey work at the front, especially in the closing stages where she kicked clear to go and win. The horse that picked her up at the line just got a toe behind her throughout the race and had something to aim at all the way through to the line. So I thought she ran really well last time out. She does handle the slow ground. The fact that it's got even slower than she's run on for her best form, I think, is probably a positive. Even before that race last time out, she ran well in the Champion 2-year-old before that. So I think 5-2 about her looks relatively generous. There could be a bit of a lurker in here. Like Spanish Waltz has got the potential and scope to just leap over the ability that Lamyai's shown up to now. But I think Lamyai last time looked progressive, so there's a chance that she could step forward again. And I don't think she even needs to win this. So Lamyai would be one of my stronger fancies this Saturday.
5-2 as well for Lamyai. One of my stronger fancies. This was not the race that I thought you were going to have one of your stronger fancies in at all, Dave. So good to know. But we're going to head back to Cheltenham now for the 2:55. The Potemps. Oh, the world has just restored order again. We are back. Right, the Potemps Network handicap hurdle, a qualifier, 4-year-olds and over 3 miles. Long draw, who is fascinating for this one, 13-2 shot. And the fact he's got such a good Cheltenham record, I actually asked Ollie Murphy doing a stable preview with him back in start of September, and said, surely he's just got to have one aim for the Potemps, hasn't he? But yeah, and naturally, no one's going to be blindsided by that. It is just the natural way of thinking about long draw. He is currently the favourite in here, Dave. So does he go and win, or how are you going to play our first Potemps of the season to look at?
I don't know, but you said there that it was surprising that my sort of stronger bet came from Doncaster, and then you've led it straight into it's a Potemps qualifier. I can't be napping in this, or could I? No, I can't.
Or could you? Curveball.
Long draw, like I feel like you've surmised him beautifully. He was a very good horse last year. I didn't give him the credit that he deserved early last season. Actually talked a couple of people out of backing him, I think, but obviously, you know, we should make our own decisions in there, but I can be convincing, as viewers will know. But his last couple of runs at the back end of last season were quite good. He won at the April meeting at Cheltenham, which is, I mean, with respect to this meeting, probably about the standard of an October meeting. And then the run after in Haydock, I think it was nice again. So running around about the mark, you'd think with a horse like this, especially with the way that we look at the Stayers Hurdle division, you'd have to think that they might as well start the season trying to see how good he could be. And then if it doesn't quite pan out, you know, if he goes well in here, he's only got to qualify by finishing in the top four, isn't he? I know it's winning you're in, but I can't see why they wouldn't be going great guns for this. And Ollie Murphy's obviously started the season really strongly. So probably the 13-2 about him, considering it's a Potemps qualifier and people want to have reservations that horses might not be trying to actually win the race. So far out from the festival, I've seen no reason why long draw would not go really, really well in here. Like I say, just at the start of last year, I kind of felt like I didn't see him being as progressive as he was, or as good a horse as he was. And I'm sort of starting this season the same. I'm still waiting to really get excited about long draw and expect him to be continuing on his curve. So for all that he could, I guess I'm just a little bit wary with him. We talked about, I keep talking about Cheltenham form from last year, don't I? About the fact that this is like, look at what happened in previous years. And Gordon Elliott won this race last year with the Woolpark. Now, he's got a runner in here, Winning Smut, who's a different type of horse. 2 wins and a second since joining Gordon Elliott, though. And he ran over the summer for a couple of those runs when he came second and then first. Won a listed handicap at Galway was the last time out. That was been back in August, so a couple of months out. So as much as long draw does go well at the start of the season, I feel like Winning Smut's been kept going through the summer, and we've seen Gordon do this so many times at this meeting, where he'll keep a horse going, get them in a race like this at Cheltenham, qualify them, and then potentially just put them away until they need to come back. I think this horse needs to be given some serious credit in here, and about the same price as long draw, they probably have got about the same sort of chance. But I feel like this is a horse that might just be a bit further forward. Like you've touched on with long draw, they may be aiming for the Potemps of the season, and maybe they will go for a slower approach with him than they did last time round, as in 12 months ago. So I think Winning Smut would be my selection in here, but it's a Potemps qualifier, so just you could pick any of them really, couldn't you?
Literally that, yes. But 13-2 the field, joint favourites, long draw and Winning Smut in here for Gordon Elliott and Jack Kennedy. Andrew, the P word, she's back.
I was going to say, what's Victoria Malzard riding here? So let's.
Oh yeah, exactly. What was the Kansas City Chief? Was it?
Yeah, I think so. Hang on. Yeah, Kansas City Chief back in 2021. So
yeah, just in every single one of these. Just the only horse that kind of wanted to win it.
That's right. Because we talked about, wasn't worried. The stable star from a small yard who was quite happy to go for a pot worth sort of almost 20 grand to the winner rather than getting handicaps for the big one. Long Draw was actually entered in the per temps last year, but was first reserve and didn't get into it. Now, I did an each-way Trixie with all three Ollie Murphy handicappers at the Cheltenham Festival last year, put them all up in a column. Active Authority was second in the Martin Pipe at 28-1. Resplendent Grey was lucky to sneak a place, went fourth in the 3 mile 6 novice. And then Long Draw was the non-runner. So I really think he would have been placed because he's had 10 goes in handicap hurdles, never been out of the first 4. So I think we can expect a similar thing now. There was a stable interview in the, I can't remember if it's the Racing Post or the Racing Football Outlook recently, where Ollie Murphy's basically saying this is the aim again. The per temps final, and he's probably going to be roughed off over the winter because all his form is between sort of March and November, and he tends to struggle in deep winter ground. So I think he'll be there or thereabouts. I'll happily back him each way in this at 13-2. Winning Smut has had 3 runs for Gordon Elliott, first, second, third. And Dave was saying he won this race last year with the Warpard. I think he sort of back Long Draw, Winning Smut each way, or have that pair in your place spot, you're going to be okay. The other interesting one was Supremely West. First run for Dan Skelton, whose stable switches do well when running in handicap hurdles. This one is Dr. Richard Newland and Jamie Insole. Now, it had a wind operation since we last saw him. All his sort of good form is on soft or heavy going, so it's possibly ground dependent. And the trouble is, every time I look at Twitter, every single Dan Skelton horse seems to have been ridden with a future handicap project in mind, and people are screaming that they're ridden out the back of the telly. So perhaps don't be expecting too much from this one. So yeah, I'll go Long Draw each way to make it 11 top 4 finishes from 11 runs in handicap hurdles.
There you go then. Nice way to play this as well, Long Draw. But yeah, it has been fascinating, hasn't it? Like I say, all of the hysteria is the only word I can really use for the Skelton horses, just at the best of times, but especially when we're really getting rolling into the jump season proper now. Now on to Newbury for the 310, the Group 3 Horace Hill Stakes for the 2-year-olds over 7 furlongs. Time to turn. He is clear on official ratings, all the figures that he's proved so far. However, Andrew, I wonder about the ground at Newbury. Is that going to count against them, or do you not think it will matter?
No, I think you're spot on there with that, because we often see upsets in this race where horses who've been running well on good to firm and good ground early in the season tend to go off the boil when it's on the soft side at Newbury. Now, the last 10 runnings of this race at Newbury, it was run at Newmarket in 2019. And it was abandoned in 2023. He'd backed all 89 runners and made a profit at SP of 12 quid. So that shows you how many shocks we've had. And Time to Turn, the current 9-4 favourite, is also a February foal. And this has not been a good race for early foals. I think January and February foals have got a combined record of 0 from 39 or something like that. Now, the front 3 in the market at the time of writing, Time to Turn, Pandemonium, and Stellar Sunrise, are all February foals. Boiling Over another one as well, although he's a bigger price. I think we could get creative here. You've got Wetchard for Roger Varian, a March foal. May Angel, I thought, was quite interesting for the Gosdens. Now, he's wearing a hood for the first time. That's been a good angle for Gosden turf runners since 2010. 27 winners from 94 runners, a strike rate of almost 29%, and a huge profit at SP of £103.67, which is quite surprising given the the leading yard they represent. So I was thinking I'll go with May Angel. With the folding date and the hood angle, perhaps save on Wetchard. Yeah, okay. Arabian Desert is the latest foal of this, an April foal, but 20-1 outsider. But of course, there's a Frankel, and having sort of mentioned that Frankel's on sort of soft and heavy ground, not ideal. If it does get generally deep at Newbury, then maybe he won't like the ground.
Oh, there you go. It's when your own stat comes back to bite you in the arse for a later race there, but you've got to stick true to it. You're not like Dave and I when we try to just manage these trends and stats to suit our narratives. But there you go. Arabian Desert is 20-1 outsider, but do just worry about the ground then perhaps for him. May Angel at 8-1, and Wetchard, I'm so pleased that you gave him a shout out at 7-1. He has just drifted out a little bit, but probably the one I was most interested in here, to be honest. But Dave, it's not easy, this race at all, for which of these 2-year-olds is going to be able to cope with the ground.
No, it's not, and that is the key factor, isn't it? Because Time to Turn was disappointed last time behind, was it Puerto Rico? But that was like I say, it's a much better race than this. It definitely was a much better race, and it was classed as very soft over there. They'll happily call anything soft over there, even if it's not really. So it is officially soft at Newbury, and I think there's like a little bit of rain about. Like, I don't know how much it's going to dry out, but I'd be prepared to give him another chance, like times 10, because as you say, he is clear on figures. His couple of wins when he's won on like sort of good ground, I wouldn't really look at him and say that he needed the good ground in his action or the way that he won those performances. When he ran on the all weather and it was like standards to slow, I thought he actually ran a little bit better in there. And you'd imagine that Charlie Appleby's not just running the horse for the sake of running him. If he's running in very soft ground over there and the ground is an issue, I'd think he's going to pull him if he doesn't think he can win the race. So I'll trust that we're getting a bit of a bigger price about time to turn because of the concerns about the ground, despite the fact that I am very aware of the concerns of the ground. So not one that I'd be getting overly excited about. I did look at May Angel that Andrew's put up as like a valid option to be a danger, but was like jumped the road, I think, last time. I was like a bit keen. I do like the fact that Tom Marquand's on a bit now as well, but for the fact that I'd be reaching that I think May Angel needs to step up to in this race, I'd also be reaching that Time to Turn probably could get away with the ground. And I think with the form in the book, Time to Turn's a more obvious option to go for, hence why he's priced the way that he is. But I don't think 9 to 4 would look bad if they do run him and they think he'll be fine on the ground.
Okay, there you go then. So perhaps just a bigger pricing about him as a result of that. And people like me overthinking it all. But why not just side with the best, most quality horse in a race like that? But we'll leave that there and head back to Cheltenham for the 3:30. The Masterton Holding Hurdle for the 4-year-olds over the 2 miles. Give it to me, OJ. Is currently the odds-on favourite in this one for Gary and Josh Moore. Caelan Quinn taking the ride. James Owen, understandably so, such as his want in these 4-year-old hurdles, has the second favourite in this one, Dave. So how are you playing it?
I mean, it's very difficult when we've got 11 races to go through to try and get inventive in a race like this, because give it to me, OJ should just win this, shouldn't he? I don't think the 8 to 13 is a terrible price. You can get as a top price. He's as short as 4 to 9 in other places. I'd say that's much more where he should be sat. He should be sat the wrong side of 1 to 2 for me. So, I mean, even at 8 to 13, I'd be tempted to have a couple of quid on him. But again, it's the types of race where you don't really want to get stuck into. Bottler's Secret, I think it was last year, wasn't it, that looked like the right horse to go on to. And then it was Harry Derham's horse that won the race instead. I just don't think in this race it looks that competitive. So I can't see how Give It To Me OJ gets beat. He's a couple of runs on the flat recently have been good. He's won on all types of grounds. This is exactly the same as the last race, from my opinion. Just the best horse in the race wins it.
There you go. Best horse in the race wins. Why overcomplicate it? And perhaps even a fair price as well at 8 to 13 at the time of recording. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Give It To Me OJ. This race often goes to the quite simply the horse who recorded the best last time out, speed figure over hurdles, and that's him. Two wins from 2 on the flat since. So yeah, I think he'll win this.
Oh, that was a nice simple way to play this race, both with Give It To Me OJ there in that 3:30 at Cheltenham, the 3:45 at Newbury, the St Simon Stakes Group 3 contest, 3-year-olds and older, over a mile for a bunch of ragamuffins that we've got to go at in here, but likeable ragamuffins. So we really do like these. I feel like ragamuffins tends to be a bit of a negative term. What I mean by that is just characters we know loads about and we absolutely adore. Good old Hamish/Hamish, he's back for more. I swear to God, the day that this horse retires will be a sad day. Ancient Wisdom it is, though, currently heads away at 9 to 4. And then we've, of course, got Al-Azi in here as well. So William Haggis, a dynamic duo, are going in this one, Andrew, but who wins?
I don't know. I mean, the favourite's lost on his last 5 race course visits. Hamish, we know he'll like the mud. I thought he was a little bit underwhelming at Ascot last time, albeit he was up against Al Kareem, who's got a great record in that particular race. He got beaten 6 lengths, and he is a 9-year-old, and he was beaten in this race more at his peak in 2022 when a neck behind Max Vega, who was tipped in my column, last bit of after timing there. So I'm sort of stars in their eyes was sort of more interesting. I thought at a big price, 15 to 2. I can see for this one for Ray Beckett, and because he was the trainer of the aforementioned Max Vega, who's now since been retired, I assume. I hope he's not dead, because that makes me look very poorly researched. And I thought that the ground was too quick for him last time out when he sort of plodded on into. I say plodded on. He was 7th, but he was only beaten 3.5 lengths behind the keep at Goodwood. Ancient Wisdom was in 2nd place that day, so he hasn't got a huge amount to do to reverse the form with the favourite. And again, his win at Leicester came on sort of very deep going. So I'll take Stars in Their Eyes, lightly raced, potential improver, particularly if the ground's sort of genuinely soft or heavy. I thought he could be the one. Miss Wong also worth a mention for David Simcock. Now, I'm a bit annoyed with myself for this one last time out because I put her up as a selection for the Premier Fillies handicap at Newmarket, despite the fact that there was a tailwind and her patient style was not going to be ideal for the track. But she's run a blinder to finish second to one of Rafe Beckett's, going down by a neck and coming from off the pace. So, given the bias was against her, I think she could run well at 33-1, despite the fact she's up in class here.
It's the outsider of the field at 33-1. Yeah, I do always think of you and Max Vega when we talk about this race. That was actually the last time Max Vega ran as well, and of course it was a win in this race, and that was on the back of a lengthy break. So yeah, I mean it still says that he's alive and well. We don't know if he's retired or not, so I assume that he probably is an 8-year-old now. But yeah, what a horse though Max Vega certainly was for all of us. Dave, who wins the St. Simon?
Well, I just like the fact that you described them as ragamuffins. It's Newbury. It's basically the start of the jump season. It's basically over a hurdle distance, is 1.5 miles. Chuck a hurdle in there and sort them all out, is what I say. Even if you just
Hamish over a hurdle, I would love it. I'd say you'd love it,
I think they would. Just put one in the last couple of furlongs just to get them to concentrate. They do it with greyhounds, didn't they? Stick them over the hurdles.
Al-Azi would definitely refuse.
Well, that's the small problem, isn't it, with Al-Azi? Because I think we all know on his day he's got more ability than he's probably ever shown. His Gordon Stakes win at the beginning of the season at Sandown was on decent ground. He was running off in levels with Ancient Wisdom. Ancient Wisdom probably got his pocket pitched a little bit because Al-Azi came on the outside of him, but he rallied through to the line. And given that the ground is going to be slower here than it was at Sandown, and considering Sandown's always supposed to be really soft, and they officially described that as good, that's probably enough to say why Ancient Wisdom's the price that he is, and Al-Azi is the price that he is. And like I say, he's got that £3 swing as well. It's a tricky one because I like Al-Azi like too much probably, and his Newbury form started to peter off a little bit, hasn't it? When he raced at Leopardstown last time out, he was just out the back with too much to do. And I think it depends how this contest is run and how the pace works out in the race for Al-Azi to have a case in here, because he will be ridden out the back. It will need for the ones in front to be struggling and him to be keeping interest for long enough to be able to go put his head in front at the right time. I feel like this is the type of race that could set up nicely for him. And I think at 8-1, I would probably be happy to take the risk. The one I thought that was the most straightforward in it was Stars in the Rise that Andrews mentioned. The run last time out at Goodwood, if you watch it back, you wouldn't really think that he could sort of reverse the form with Ancient Wisdom, but the ground would be a big factor in that as well. Like, I think that this Stars in Their Eyes has got progression with, like Andrew says, it being genuinely soft ground. I just feel like Al-Azi is the most solid, which is a crazy thing to say, in the fact that we know he likes it around Newbury, we know what sort of numbers he can run up to, and on a going day he is well up to beating these. So I think 8-1 about Al-Azi looks generous, and when he won that Gordon Stakes race at the beginning of the year, he was a little bit unfancied in there, and probably disrespectfully so. I think he might do the same in here. He might look at the bookies board on the way out and think, I'm going to show them I'm no 8-1 shot, and Al-Azi will get his head in front.
He definitely would, wouldn't he? We having a look at what his price was. Yeah, stick a hurdle in front of him, he'd run out or refuse. And yeah, I love that. The bit of the oxymoron. The solid one is Al-Azi, but I know exactly what you mean, though. We do adore him. 17-2, I can actually see about Al-Azi at the top price at the time of recording as well. Right, we've got that, lads. On to the final race in this schedule, the 405 back at Cheltenham. Novices at Chase. Now this is for the 5-year-olds and over 3 mile one. Anyway, heads the way for David Budd's Darragh O'Keefe coming over to ride. 11-4 favourites in this one, Dave.
Yeah, it was 125-1 second, wasn't he, behind Caldwell Potter in the Novices Chase at the festival. Sort of backed that up next time out of a reasonable effort and a similar RPR. But the run in that race at Cheltenham came out of nowhere, which, I don't know, his last couple of runs haven't been good enough. Maybe they're gearing him up for something this season in and around Cheltenham. But on the balance of things, I don't see any way sort of warranting being favourite in a race like this. You've got Pied Piper, who's officially the best horse in this race, comes and giving weight away. He's got really good Cheltenham form as well, hasn't he? I think behind Favre when he was second in a county, he's got some other bits of decent Cheltenham form in there as well. He's another one similar to Anyway. If you look at what the horse has done on his last couple or even his last few starts, he's got no business winning this. But again, it's Gordon Elliott at the start of the season in the October meeting. I think he won this with Chemical Energy a couple of years ago. I don't think Pied Piper would be the same type of horse, but you know, he's going to target a horse here and they're going to run better than they probably have done in their previous runs if they've not been running so well. Welcome to Cartrees is very interesting because we know how Paul Nicholls sort of rates a lot of his horses. Then sometimes they don't come to the boil in time. Coldwell Potter is that classic example that he got pelters for saying that he'd ruined the horse and then goes and does what he does at Cheltenham and then goes and does what he does at Aintree. I feel a little bit with Welcome to Cartrees last year, was thrown in the deep end, and rightly so, and obviously just wasn't running to his best sort of standard. Coming into this season as a second season novice, definitely has the capability on paper, and especially on these terms, to be better than all of them. But I'm making an assumption on that, and I'm assuming that he's got the capability to do that because what he's actually shown us wouldn't suggest that he can do that. It's a proper tasty race, but I do think that the obvious selection in here and the one that's got the most chance of winning this race would be Intense Approach. Another horse that's got good course form here. Only had the one run over fences, so a little bit less experience than some of the ones in here, but it was a decent victory, and it was against a load of good horses as well. Chantreuse was in there, Sandor Clegane. There was another one of Gordon Elliott's, a Giggins Towney one. There was a What's Up Darling maybe, but there was, I feel like some good sort of names. His mark of 137 in amongst that company of names that I've mentioned there, I think probably might be a bit light. I think he's got the same mark he's got in Ireland, or the way that it's been adjusted, he's just been given that mark over here. But I think it underappreciates him. I know this isn't a handicap, but on the terms that he gets in at, I think he probably could be one of the better horses in this race. And honestly, if you haven't watched his chase debut, if you go back and watch how he rallies, he got headed, Chantreuse went in front, he got ridden to catch up with the horse in front and then just stuck his neck down. There was loads of them coming to try and challenge and he wouldn't let anything pass. So I feel like we've talked about in races like this, Highland last year in the race went off from the front and nothing could go past him. I can see Intense Approach jumping out up front at the first fence and they just won't go by him. So I think 3-1 about Intense Approach looks generous. I think this horse should go off a lot shorter.
And another John McConnell runner on the day. He could well be set to have another good Cheltenham Saturday. Intense Approach at 3-1. Andrew, Novices Chase.
Yeah, this is really tricky. This is the last leg of the place pot. 7 runners, so you've only got 2 places to go for. And it's kind of one that you'd sort of put 6 in and just hope for an upset. Now, in the last 10 years, it's 5-all between British and Irish trainers. But the British trainers had 36 runners and those produced a loss of £10, 37 at SP, whereas the Irish from just 17 runners were showing a profit of £15.50. We've got 5 Irish trained runners out of the 7. And now another thing is experience as well over fences. 7 of the last 10 winners had had 2 or more previous chase starts. Backing all 28 qualifiers produced a profit of £24. So although I like John McConnell at Cheltenham off meetings, I'm sort of thinking Intense Approach, given the subsequent efforts of the 2nd and 3rd in that Galway race, I might take him on. Leave of Absence, although British trained Anthony Honeyball, was semi-interesting given that he's shown a preference for left-handed tracks, albeit from limited evidence. He's had 3 runs this way round, won a Newbury bumper, finished 3rd to Look Away in the Grade 2 bumper at Aintree in 2022. And then last season, so he had a big gap in his career, but last season he sort of came to form and won at Newbury from the front on his final start. That was his first run left-handed for his current yard after losing Chris Gordon. So I think he could go well, despite the Irish versus British stats. Baltic Birds had 3 chase runs. He was interesting, and he's been back from 28 into 22s. I wouldn't leave him out for William Durkin. So it's a tricky old race. Welcome to Cartrees. I did actually tip him up in Grade 1 company at Kempton, his 2nd chase start, because he jumped out to his right behind handstands when debuting in a Grade 2 at Newbury on his chase debut. But he ran an absolute shocker despite being well supported. He reverted to hurdles afterwards. He's got the cheek pieces on, which is a profitable angle for Nicholls chasers. But I think I've just got to leave him alone. I mean, I might even sort of place lay him here back on a left-handed track and think he's not going to be in the 2 or 3. So I'm going to go Baltic Bird at a price here, but I don't think it's a race I'll be betting in. I'll be sort of like chucking all the Irish ones into the place sport and hoping for an upset.
There's enough of them to be fair to be going up for that, but like I say, just chuck them all into the play squat and just hope that you stay in that leg then for the final leg. 22-1 Baltic Bird, though, for what it's worth, is the outsider of the field. Right, Andrew, not that there's many races we haven't covered, but is there anything from anywhere else?
No, I've not even looked yet. So obviously, check my column, as we always say, because there might be something there. And yeah, that's it from me. Just the 11 televised races.
Just the 11 of them. So yeah, not much time to be able to look at anything else, Dave. I think it's fair to say. But just out of interest, did you have anything?
Of course I did. There was one more race at Cheltenham we haven't covered. No,
Of course.
I haven't given it too much attention, but Fergal O'Brien's got a like a reasonably looking bumper horse in Chicker. Ran at the end of August, left a pretty decent impression, and the type of impression where you think Fergal's going to lead this one to Cheltenham and win at the October meeting. So carries a penalty, has been priced up about 9-4. I think that, I mean, it's a short enough price, but I think the Chick is going to be much the best. It looks like a really nice bumper prospect, regardless of what they do on Saturday at Cheltenham. But I think that Chicker in the last 9-4 doesn't look bad.
Fergal O'Brien in a bumper at Cheltenham. Goodness me. Yeah, Chicker, it is. Then he's 1 from 1 from his career so far. That race is actually priced up as well. 9-4 currently is Chicker. Right, David, go back to you, please, for your nap.
I've been taking some chances recently with bigger priced ones, so I'm going to go with something a little bit more solid. Not all the way down for Give It To Me OJ, but the one that I mentioned earlier, one of my stronger fancies in the 240 at Doncaster, the Prospect Stakes. Lamb Yai is this week's nap.
There you go. You did kind of give it away during the recording, to be fair, that might be the way you were going to go with your nap, and there it is. Andrew, your own nap, please.
Yeah, tricky week, but I'll go with Highland for Nicky Henderson, the 220 at Cheltenham, to make it 3 Cheltenham October wins from the last 3 seasons.
To bring up the hat trick then in the process across those seasons. Well, lads, best of luck. I think, oh god, man, I'll stick a nap into the mix as well. I'll take the pair of you two on in the Futurity, and I will go with Benvenuto Cellini in the hope that he can cope with the softer ground conditions and defy those pedigree stats that Andrew chucked my way. Right, that was a blockbuster episode, wasn't it? Well done, lads, for getting through all of that, and well done to the pair of you two for all of your hard work, and hopefully that will come to fruition this weekend. A big thanks to you for watching, and as we were saying at the top of the show, we will be recording our National Hunt preview special show on Tuesday next week, so make sure to get in all of your questions, how the 3 of us pick a winner, what we look for first and foremost, any of our biggest winners, horse that we're excited to see this year. We'll be getting into that in the main part of the show, but anything you've always wanted to
colour, favourite chocolate bar, favourite dinosaur.
I will gladly answer every single one of those, so do make sure to get your questions in the comment section below. But enjoy the action this weekend. We'll speak to you again next week.